All right, what's going on, guys? How's everybody doing? I know everybody's reading this title and they're like, "Beeb, what the fuck are you doing? You're actually doing a breakdown of this fight. You're actually doing a beating the odds with Beeb with this fight. You actually have betting strategies for this fight." And my answer is yes, yes, I do. Here's the thing: we look at fights and we have this perception of what the event is and what it should be. And when you really look at something, you have to look beyond and deeper than the surface. You really have to look beyond and deeper than the surface. So a lot of people are looking at this fight and they're like, this is a sideshow. This is a circus. Jake Paul's not a real fighter. Ben Askren's not a boxer. He's a wrestler. He's a mixed martial arts fighter. He has no boxing experience. Um, you know, blah blah blah, the usual criticism that we get, which is, you can't really dispute it. It's not, you can't argue too much against it. Everyone has a right to their own opinion. And if you were to have that perception of this fight, I'm not here to change your mind. I'm not here to try to tell you this fight is something that it's not. I'm not here to try to tell you this fight is something that it's not. Just like, I thought that the UK broadcasters on the zone last week were trying to tell you what you were watching in that Ebony Bridges Shani Courtenay fight. They're trying to tell you that something was going on that really wasn't going on. They were trying to sell you something about Ebony Bridges that just wasn't there. So it's kind of funny how we talk about the pretty lie and the ugly truth. It's kind of funny how a lot of people were willing to believe that pretty lie in regards to Ebony Bridges, but they don't want to believe the pretty lie when it comes to Jake Paul. And Jake Paul, not in so many words, is telling you, hey man, this is an act. This is what I'm doing to promote my fights, promote myself, promote the events. Like everybody knows that what Jake Paul does is for shock value, and he doesn't hide it. He doesn't hide it. He openly says that, I my haters allow me to get just as much attention as the people who love me, my fans. So he's taken that Mayweather blueprint and he's really utilizing that. He's following that blueprint to a T. But this whole thing with, Ebony Bridges, her whole shtick is she's trying to tell you that I'm more than just a pretty face. It's not about my looks. But meanwhile, everything she does in terms of promoting herself is about her looks. She can't do anything without showing off her body, without promoting her physical appearance. So that's just it. It's like the pretty girl that goes to the gym. It's the dead of winter out there, all right? And she's wearing a thong while working out, and she's got a shoelace strapped around her chest. And then she's has the gall to sit there and say, "Well, hey man, I'm just here to work out. I'm here to get in shape. I'm not here to have guys look at me." Okay. But if you didn't want guys to look at you, you wouldn't have dressed that way. So if Ebony Bridges didn't want people to focus more on her appearance than her boxing ability, then she wouldn't dress the way she dresses and she wouldn't act the way she acts. And she just not would be so overtly sexual like she is. And she could do all that. But don't sit there and get angry or get frustrated when people are focused more on that than your boxing ability. And everyone wants to sit there and say that she legitimized herself last week when she absolutely did not. If you look at her record was very poor in terms of her level of opposition. And even then, let's pop open her record just for the sake of doing a comparative analysis. And I'm going to tie it all together. I know people are like, Beeb, well, this is supposed to be about Jake Paul and Ben Askren, but I'm going to kind of put this all together to make a fair comparison and how people are very hypocritical in their analysis of situations. So, in other words, people want to believe the Ebony Bridges narrative because they like that pretty lie, but they don't like the pretty lie of Jake Paul. So that's what it is. So let's just put this in context, okay? So if you look at Ebony Bridges' record, all right, she turned pro in 2019. Okay, she fought a woman named Mahika Moreno in her very first fight. She won a majority decision, a 3-round majority decision. Okay, and the two cards that she won on, she barely won. It was like 30 to 20. It was one of the cards was 29-28. Another one was 30 to 28. So she barely squeaked by in her pro debut. Then she fought another woman named Laura Woods, who had her debut. Okay. She fought a woman who was making her debut, and she scored a TKO in the third round. Okay, so she didn't even really get a clean knockout. So everyone's trying to tell us that she's this big power puncher, but she's really not knocking people out. She's beating women into submission when she does get the stoppage. Then in the very next fight, she fought this girl named Kanitha Nyantham or Nintham. I apologize if I mispronounced the name. This woman was 1-11, and she scored a TKO in the fourth round. Then she fought another woman named Crystal Hove, and she got a unanimous decision there. And then she fought another woman named Carol Earl, and she won a unanimous decision there. So she has 2 knockouts in 6 fights. So she's not this big power puncher. She's not. So, again, for her to have that level of opposition and already jump into a title fight, and people can say what they want about Shannon Courtenay. You can criticize her resume as well, but at least she had a legitimate fighter on her record in Rachel Ball, which was a fight that could have gone either way. So again, everyone put all this hype behind Ebony Bridges. She goes out there and is thoroughly outboxed. I had her losing the fight 7 rounds. I thought she only won 3 rounds in that fight. I had Courtenay winning 7 rounds to 3. I could even have gone as far as 8-2, but because she suffered this big gap, this big hematoma on her eye, which was, full credit to her for battling through that. Okay. Full credit to her for battling through that. But again, at the end of the day, she's trying to sell herself as this world-class, legitimate fighter with above average skills. And that's not the case. So with this fight, Jake, people want to make a joke of Jake Paul, and that's fine. No one's here to sit here and say that Jake Paul is a world-class fighter. And even when he says that he's like, says that, you could just tell that it's BS. He's not going out of his way to try to say he's like a championship world-class fighter. He's doing what he's doing. He's doing it to hype up the fight. Everybody knows it. This is his shtick. He goes out of his way to say outlandish things. So, no one really takes to heart. Like he even said he had early signs of CTE when he had an examination. Do you think that they would allow him to fight if he had CTE? And if you look at Jake Paul's record in comparison to Ebony Bridges, how is it any different? The one difference is he's not fighting for a title fight. She did. So this guy, Jake Paul has 2 fights. Ebony Bridges has 6. So he fought another person. He fought the 2 fighters he fought were making their pro debuts. All right. So again, he's fighting guys who are on his level. Okay. That's the thing. Okay. So if we look at this in context, how is Jake Paul any different than Ebony Bridges? Obviously she has more fights, but they're not that much different. She had 6 fights, okay? And he has this, he's going into his third fight. But he turned pro in 2020. She turned pro in 2019. Okay? Early 2019. So what is he doing any different than any other pro fighter would do? No, like, when a pro fighter starts out, they build their record up by fighting lesser opposition or fighters close to their level. So in terms of experience, all these guys had the same amount of experience as Jake Paul had. Jake Paul did not have an extensive amateur career. He's only been boxing professionally for a little over a year. Okay, for a little over a year. All right. So if you look at Jake Paul and you look at it in terms of his experience and what he's done, if you watch him train, even if you watch him fight, no one's here to try to legitimize him as a world-class fighter. No one's here to try to say that this guy's going to be a world champion one day. But we've seen a lot of fighters out there who are not going to be world champions, who are not world beaters, who are not highly ranked. Okay. When we look at the cruiserweight division, there's 1,029 fighters out there. Okay. So to sit there and say that Jake Paul could not beat any professional boxer out there, Jake, when you watch Jake Paul train and when you watch him fight, the one thing I can say is I am impressed with his technique. He does have proper technique. He turns his punches over. He snaps his shots. He throws his punches correctly. He positions his feet correctly, does have balance, does have proper foot positioning and proper footwork when he moves and when he punches. So legitimately, when I look at him, giving him the eye test, he does fight properly. He has proper technique. Now, that doesn't mean he's going to be world champion. That doesn't mean that he's going to be a ranked fighter. I mean, the kid's 23 years old. I'm not saying he can't beat lower level guys. I'm not saying he can't beat journeyman level guys. Okay. I'm not saying that he can't have a career in this sport, but obviously he's got to be matched carefully. So for me to sit there and say Jake Paul has no skill I would be lying to you. Again, there's nothing dynamic about him, but this guy's 6'1", he's 190 pounds. He's got a good frame. He's young, definitely a well-conditioned athlete, definitely in shape, definitely has some athleticism to him. And he does have basic boxing skills. Okay, but that doesn't mean he's a world beater. Okay, so when I look at him and I look at Ebony Bridges from a technical standpoint, he's better than her. But the only difference is she's fighting for world titles. He is not. So that's why I make this comparison. Because let's look at some of these quotes from Ebony Bridges and let's look at some of the stuff being said on Twitter. Okay, so this is what she says. I was doubted the whole time. Someone who looks like that can't be tough. No one's saying you're not tough. But being tough doesn't mean you have skills, okay? Doesn't mean you have championship level skills. So men have quit from less than that, she's saying. So she's comparing herself to men. I'm happy that I was able to show everyone that I'm a real fighter, a true fighter. All right? This is what she's saying, okay? So she's saying, I've done martial arts since I was 5. When I was 8, I did planks on my 2 front knuckles, holding until I was crying and wanting to quit. But I was told not to. I was kicked while in the plank position. Through my teens, I went to hell and back. I was lucky to survive. Bodybuilding changes you more than you can imagine. The discipline and the push through fatigue to grow muscle. I would cry through workouts, but never quit. When you quit, you don't achieve. Pain is temporary. Pride is forever. She broke her ankle in one of her fights. She said, I was dragging my foot behind me. So again, she goes, I know how much heart I have. Never inspiring, never in life have I given up. That's great. That's great. That is commendable. No one's taking any of that stuff away from you. But here's where you lost me. Here's where you lost me. Okay? This is where you lost me. Let's go back to this quote. I am a real fighter, a true fighter. Okay, fighter. Okay, you're tough. You showed resilience. You have, you show that you have that fighting spirit. But again, when I watched you throw punches, you don't have great technique. You lunge, you telegraph. You don't put your body behind them. When I watch Shannon Courtenay throw punches, she turns them over properly. She punches with her full body weight. Okay, you are throwing arm punches. That's why when you hit her, you couldn't land cleanly. A lot of your shots were grazing, and even the few that did land cleanly had no effect. Why? Because you're throwing arm punches. Jake Paul is not throwing arm punches. Jake Paul is putting his body behind his shots. He's got his feet underneath them. He's punching from the ground up. She is winging shots. She fights with a lot of wasted motion. She has a lumbering, clubbing type style. I do not see anything spectacular about this woman. So yeah, she's in great shape. She has the heart of a champion. She has the determination of a champion. Okay. She has the resilience of a champion. But again, she's missing the one key ingredient. She doesn't have the skills of a champion. And neither does Jake Paul. But why are we marketing this girl who I think, just from the eye test, I think Jake Paul has more skills than her. I think he has better technique, and he displays proper technique more so than she does. But we're calling him a joke. But she's a championship level fighter. And then when she finally did step up, and when she did step up, it was ever so slightly. She failed miserably. And this is not a shot on her. This is just to keep things in context. How just because we like what we're looking, we like her look, so we like her. We like the fact that, hey, she can sit there and say, hey, I'm a woman, she's the poster woman for feminism. So everyone just wants to get behind that because we have this woke culture right now. But Jake Paul is the antagonist in everyone's mind. He's the guy, he's the disruptor. Okay? He's the nonconformist. He's the guy that everyone roots against. Okay? He has that Mayweather effect. Just as many people hate him as love him. And that's why he gets that attention. And he's carrying that over into boxing. And anything this guy does, I think he's going to be successful at, because he knows how to market himself. He knows how to play that role. But one thing he's not telling you and complaining about is he's not complaining, oh, why don't people take me serious? You know what he's saying? It doesn't matter if people take me serious. I don't care if they take me serious. I just want them to watch me. All she does is complain about people not taking her serious. She's like that girl at the gym that works out in the dead of winter, half naked, and then wants to sit there and pop her chest out and say, I'm here just to get in shape. I don't want to talk to the guys. I can't stand it when everyone looks at me. But yet you wear the type of clothing you wear, and you have the gall to wonder why all the guys are staring at you. So it's like the child that would go out and kill his parents, shoot his parents dead, and then turn around the next day and complain he's an orphan. Okay? If you are the cause of the reaction that you're getting, if you created your own drama, then you got to live with your own drama. You got to deal with the repercussions. If you came out promoting yourself as a sex object, and now you want to be looked at as a legitimate fighter. And if you did have legitimate skills, if you did have if you were as good as you really say you are, and if you did what these Sky Sports or whatever these DAZN announcers said you did, which you didn't, they're sitting there saying that you're this murderous puncher. You're not. You're an arm puncher. You're not. They're sitting there saying that you proved that you belong on the championship level. You did not. No one's saying these things about Jake Paul. Okay? So Jake Paul has legitimate skills. but he doesn't have world-class level skills. Okay. So he could continue to fight guys on his own level. He could continue to fight guys that have skills commensurate to his, and that's fine. But just the fact that his fights are getting all this attention, obviously it's because of his YouTube personality. It's because of what he's done in the other facets of his life. So it's carrying over to boxing. This guy could probably friggin' do anything, no matter what he did. He could friggin' enter a basket weaving competition, and that he would get a ton of attention doing that. So it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. So again, you had no problem pumping this girl up and trying to make her something she's not, but yet this guy's a joke. When I look at both of them, and I think he's more from a raw technical skill standpoint. And when I watch him do things in a boxing ring, he looks more skillful than she does, in my opinion. But yet she legitimized herself because she got a black eye, and she can go on social media and say, "Oh, my eye's bigger than my boobs." Once again, tying in the sex to it. Everything goes back to my appearance. And then she wears a Gotti shirt, compares herself to a Toro Gotti, right? And then she goes on social media. "Oh, you can tell I'm a Gotti fan, and I got an eye like Gotti, whatever. I look like Gotti right now, but I'm still cute." Once again, back to the sex. So don't complain that people are focusing on your looks and not your boxing when that is how you're promoting yourself. You are putting that out there as the focal point of your promotion. Jake Paul's telling you he's an asshole. Okay. He's telling you that I don't care if you love or hate me. Just watch me. So what Jake Paul's doing, there's no lie in him. He's authentic. Okay. Sometimes people don't like that. They don't want to hear it. Okay. So that's the thing. So now that we got that out of the way, no one's trying to legitimize this fight. Okay. No one's trying to say this is a world-class level fight. No one's saying that if Jake Paul beats Ben Askren, who's being labeled as a legitimate fighter, this is the one legitimate fighter that he's fought. This is a guy that actually has a combat sports background, okay, at a world-class level. Okay, this is another, went to the Olympics, whatever. But once he went to the UFC, he had, didn't do that well. When he went to the highest level of MMA, he didn't do that well, which is fine. But again, you can't erase the fact that this guy has world-class wrestling skills. He's a legitimate wrestler, He's a legitimate wrestler. But the one problem that we have with him, to be honest with you, is he has very, 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 very poor striking skills. This is a guy who's basically punching from his hips and slapping with his punches. Okay? This is a guy that just started boxing. Jake Paul is boxing for seriously training for about 2 years. This guy just recently picked it up a couple months ago. Okay? And when I watch him, even when I watched him strike in MMA fights, he didn't really throw a lot of punches. He went out of his way to not have to throw punches. He always tried to take the fight to the ground and choke people out and submit people, or just grind out decisions by winning by takedown. He never really tried to emphasize or develop or improve his striking when he was in the MMA. He was always a very poor. I'm not even saying he's a poor striker. He's below average in striking. Okay? There's people on the street that I think probably fight in tough man contests, and this is a bold statement, that have better striking than this guy. That's how poor his striking ability is. And yeah, you could say that what if he gets Jake Paul in a clinch? Okay, but even in MMA, when you get people in clinches and you grab guys, you try to position them and push them back, He doesn't like that either. He's trying to take you to the ground. So that wrestling ability in the stand-up and his strength in the stand-up, how is that going to translate into the boxing ring when they have to stay horizontal? Okay? You know, he has horrible balance. He's tripping over his feet. He's squaring up. He has atrocious, not just boxing skills, but striking skills. He doesn't even know how to strike from a mixed martial arts standpoint. He's a very, very poor striker. He's been knocked out before. Okay, he's been submitted before. He's 36 years old. He's been on the couch for about a year and a half doing nothing. Okay, he fought at 170. He's going to be fighting at cruiser, which is 200 pounds. Both these guys are probably weigh about 190, 195 pounds. So he's going to be 25 pounds above his fighting weight. So that's going to make him even slower than he normally was because he never had fast feet, never had fast hands. He just was able to, he's just a good wrestler. He just knew how to wrestle, you know? He just knew how to wrestle. But he was never, you know, dynamic with his speed, his explosiveness, and he never had any of that. All right? And now he's going to be fighting 20 pounds above his fighting weight. This is a guy that had hip surgery recently. He recovered from his hip surgery. All right? This is a guy who retired because he took some bad losses. He's 36 years old, and his body started breaking down on him. All right? He's going to be fighting a kid who's in the prime of his life, who has been training all along. Ben Askren has just started training again recently because after that surgery, he said he's done nothing but lie on the couch. Okay? So this is Ben Askren at his absolute worst, and Jake Paul, I'm going to say that he's going to be at his absolute best. Okay? So you got Jake Paul at his absolute best and Ben Askren at his absolute worst. And even Ben Askren at his absolute best still wasn't a good striker. So no matter if he's at his best or his worst, he has never shown or displayed any evidence to us that this guy had striking ability. So in my honest estimation here, you can say what you want about Jake Paul. No one's here. And I'm going to keep repeating this. Nobody is here to say Jake Paul is a world-class fighter. No one's here to say he's a top-level fighter. This is a journeyman-level fight, and it's getting championship-level attention. We can admit that, okay? We can admit that. So this is being sold for what it is. You could say what you want about Jake Paul, but he's not a real fighter. But again, the two professional fights that he had were sanctioned by state athletic commissions. So technically, he's 2-0 on BoxRec with two knockouts. All right, and he fought other fighters. He made his pro debut against another guy who made his pro debut. So, he's fighting guys that have similar experience to him, and he's beating them decisively. So you have to give him credit for that. Can he get better as he goes on? He's only 23 years old. He could probably get better. Can he ever be a world champion? I don't think so. Can he ever be a world-class fighter? I don't think so. But what I do know is he could continue to fight guys who have skills comparable to his and make a lot of money doing it. All the power to him. All the power to him. So why am I going to hate the guy? I mean, I'm not hating Ebony Bridges, but one thing that sticks in my craw that I cannot stand is I hate when especially when the media does this, when they try to put out false narratives. They try to I hate when people try to deceive other people. When people are deceptive, I hate hypocrisy. I don't like BS, okay? Don't piss down my leg and tell me it's raining. Don't do that, And I don't like how people are going to sit there and talk about Ebony Bridges like she's this second coming, and they're going to shit all over this guy, Jake Paul, when essentially they're both the same. They're both similar in terms of how they, in what they're doing with their careers. She's doing the same thing he's doing. She is trying to promote herself using a gimmick, just like he's using a gimmick, which is his personality and his YouTube personality. So how is he any different than her? Why is she legitimate and he's not? They're both really not legitimate in my mind, but let's call it for what it is. So let's talk about betting strategies for this fight. I don't care what Dana White says, with all due respect to him. There is zero chance, absolutely zero chance Ben Askren wins this fight. He cannot win this fight, in my opinion. The only way he can win this fight is if Jake Paul eats some bad food the night before and has severe food poisoning, and he's got diarrhea, and he's shitting his brains out. He's got a temperature of 104, whatever. He's got to be deathly ill to lose this fight. He has to be walking down to the ring and tripping something and blow his ACL out to lose this fight. That's what has to happen for him to lose this fight. Someone in the stands would have to hit him in the head with a bat and concuss him for him to lose this fight. That's how badly the deck is stacked against Ben Askren, in my opinion. I just think his boxing and striking ability is not just poor, extremely poor. Extremely poor. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm 51 years old. My body's broken down to shit. Okay? I don't think I could beat anybody right now, but I think I could give Ben Askren a run for his money if I was asked to box him. That's how bad his striking is. I think Ben Askren can even make me look good, and I'm done. I'm 51 years old. Both my knees are fucked up. My shoulder's fucked. I got arthritis in just about every joint in my body. I'm done. But even I think I could hold my own against Ben Askren. That's how bad of a striker Askren is. All right? That's how bad of a striker Askren is, in my opinion. And I haven't laced up a glove in shit. Maybe, I don't think, the last time I even sparred, I think, was 20 years ago. All right? Last time I sparred, I think I was 31 years old. That's how, and even I think could train for probably a month and be able to hold my, I'm not even saying I would beat him. I think I would make a good account of myself against him. I'm not saying I would beat him. I think I could hold my own against him. That's how bad of a striker he is. I don't think he would knock me out. So I just don't think there's any way Ben Askren wins this fight. So Beeb, how do you bet this fight? How do you bet this fight, Beeb? Let's look at the odds. Jake Paul's a minus 190. Ben Askren is a plus 145. Do I feel comfortable laying 190? I don't hate it, but I don't like it. I don't hate it, but I don't like it. So let's look at some different avenues we can go down here. The prop bets. I was on a couple websites. EJ, because you think it, don't make it true. No shit. That's why it's called opinion. No one's here to say what's true and what's not true. This is called opinion. I'm here for my opinion. Everyone is on here for their opinion. So I don't, that's like, with all due respect, that's probably the most ridiculous comment I've ever heard you say in your life, because it's not applicable to this. This is opinion. Just if everyone that gambled knew the truth beforehand, knew exactly what was going to happen beforehand, we all had crystal balls, and we were these sages that could predict anything, then again, I think the casinos would be shut down, wouldn't they? None of us would have jobs. We'd all be betting handicappers. So that comment is kind of the most ridiculous comment I ever heard in my life, with all due respect. But let me get off you. So this is what we're going to do, because we always look for value, right? We always look for value. Okay? While other people look for emotion, we look for value. All right? Whenever people are concerned about being right or wrong, we want to make money. Okay? When other people are worried about what's true and what's not true, we're looking at percentages. Right? We're looking at percentages. So Jake Paul to win by stoppage is a plus 115. Jake Paul to win by decision is a plus 500. So what do we do here? How do we bet this fight? Well, obviously, the avenue to go down is probably the prop bets, right? Well, Beeb, which prop bet do you like? I like them both. I like them both. You know, and normally I don't do these hedges, but I'm going to hedge here. I would bet 100. We're gonna just use conservative numbers here. So I would bet 100 on Jake Paul to win by knockout, right? And I would bet 50 on him to win by decision. So then you're saying, well, Beeb, you know, you're not going to win much doing that. Well, if you want to bet 200, then you know, whatever, 300, whatever. But the ratio I'm using is 100 to, you know, 100 to 50. So basically, you know, for the decision prop, you just cut your bet in half. So if you were to win, if you were to win your knockout proposition, you would get your 100 back plus your 115, but you'd lose on the decision prop. So you have a net gain of 65 based on $100. But if you were to hit your decision prop, which is a plus 500, you know, you would win 250, but you'd lose your 100. So that would be a net gain of 150. So either way you win. Now, obviously you win less if he wins by knockout, but the odds makers pretty much don't know everything, but they're telling you that the most likely scenario here is Jake Paul by stoppage because they're only giving him a plus 115, whereas the decision is a plus 500. So, you know, you win 65, you want to put 200, you win 130, whatever. You're not going to win a lot on this, but it's almost guaranteed. It's like guaranteed money. It's like waking up in the morning, punching in for work and punching out and you get your check, right? Because you worked your hours. This is the same thing. To me, this is as close to 100% as you can ever get here. I'm giving Ben Askren zero chance to win this fight. My only question is I don't know how Jake Paul is going to win. I think he's going to win by knockout, but there is a chance that Ben Askren could hold on here, right? So why not hedge our bet? Why not hedge our bet here? So if you want to go bold, you can go Paul with the stoppage proposition and win the 115. But if you want to be a little conservative, you could hedge it with the $50 on the decision prop, and you'll end up making only 65 instead of your 115. So you're going to lose a little bit on your return. But either way, you win. Either way, you win. So if it was me, I would probably bet both sides. I would put 100 or 200, whatever, I would, you know, in increments of 100. Whatever you bet for the knockout prop, I would bet half of that on the decision prop, and you win either way. Okay? Depends how bold you want to be. But if you put a gun to my head and you tell me I only got to pick one, I'm going to go with the knockout proposition. This is a guy that's coming off the couch who's going to be 20 pounds heavier than he normally is in a combat sports competition, coming off of surgery, 36 years old, doing it just for the money, where the other kid kind of does have a little bit of passion to it. Jake Paul actually does enjoy it. You can just tell because he's continuously training. He looks phenomenal in terms of conditioning goes. He's 23 in the prime of his life fighting a guy who's 36, who's really out of his prime. Okay? His body's broken down. Put a gun on my head. How does this fight end? I think Jake Paul wins by probably second or third round stoppage. But why not guarantee my winnings and just hedge it? Why not just hedge it? And bet the both sides of it here, the knockout proposition and the decision proposition. Why not do that? And even so if you hit your decision prop and you lose on your knockout prop, you're getting a return of 150. That's pretty big. You're almost doubling your money that way. Not quite, but almost. So that's what I would do here. I would bet 100 for the knockout proposition and 50 for the decision prop, or 200 and 100, or whatever. I would just do half on the decision prop of whatever I'm betting for the knockout prop. That's what I would do. That's what I would do. That's my recommendation here. So the straddle is Jake Paul to win by stoppage, $100, $50 for him to win by decision. Or you can adjust it accordingly. So 200, 100, whatever. 300, 150, whatever. 400, 200, however you want to do it. You could even, if you want to be brave, you want to put 200 on the decision and 100 on the, 200 on the knockout and 100 on the decision. Make a little bit more money. So this is a legitimate straddle where you don't have to put up a lot of money to win here, and you have a respectable payout here for yourself. So, like I said, if you really want to get brave here, you can just bet the knockout proposition. But I would recommend hedging it with the decision prop, because I just don't see any way Ben Askren can win this fight. Zero. I give him zero chance. Nothing's impossible. This is the closest to impossible you're ever going to get. This is about Ben Askren winning this is about as possible as me getting struck by lightning 3 times on the same day. That's the chance I'm giving Ben Askren to win this fight, which is pretty damn near close to zero. So that's what I got for you guys. And I'm intrigued by this. I really am. What is intriguing to me is to see basically if Ben Askren can hold on and go the distance here. I don't think he can win the fight, but could he hang in there and make a good account of himself? Or does Jake Paul destroy him like he destroyed his other 2 opponents? That's the thing. That's the thing. Guys, fill Joe Ramos in on the chat. I don't feel like repeating myself. I already kind of said the same thing 3 times in a row, so I don't want to say it a 4th time in a row. No disrespect. Maybe if you give me a small super chat, I'll repeat the pick. But yeah. So that's about it, guys. We're gonna take Jake Paul here. Gonna put 100 on him and get the plus 115. And we're also going to put 50 with the plus 500 for the decision. So we're going to straddle here. That's our bet. That's our bet. All right, guys. Till next time, Beeb is out. Talk to y'all soon. Make sure you check us out every Sunday night. Ringside Reporter Podcast. Myself, Eric Lauda. Make sure you check me out on D-Style Boxing every Thursday night. Throwback Thursdays with a great panel. D-Style, Emil Carr, Dave 408, Rob Boxing TV, all the old school guys. Make sure you check us out. Till next time, Beeb is out. Thank you so much for joining me in the chat. Peace out to everybody. Stay safe, and I will talk to you soon.